My name is Bert Casey, and I'd like to welcome you to the Introduction to Electric Bass Guitar video, where you'll be able to watch and learn how to play the electric bass. The purpose of this video is to start the beginning student out correctly in playing the bass and show you each beginning step in great detail. We feel that once you've mastered the fundamentals, you'll be able to use other, more advanced material, take lessons, or learn by watching friends. Even though the video can be used by itself, we strongly recommend getting the book Bass Guitar Primer for the following reasons. All the exercises and examples in the video are covered in the book. After completing the video, you'll be able to continue advancing if you have the book. There's also a 60-minute cassette tape with the Bass Guitar Primer, which plays 20 different song examples, and this will allow you to play along with a full band arrangement. And when practicing the exercises over and over, it's much easier to use a book as opposed to having your VCR on pause. In order to play the bass, you must accomplish 6 objectives or goals. You must understand each objective before proceeding to the next. The objectives are as follows. Take your bass to a local music store to make sure it's in proper playing condition and that it has new strings. If it needs adjustment, they can probably do it on the spot. They can also show you how the volume and tone controls work and check to make sure that you have a good chord. At first, you'll be playing the bass sitting down, and you want to use a straight back chair so you can sit with good posture and have free arm movement. Sit erect with both feet on the floor. The bass should rest on your right thigh and be braced against your stomach with your right forearm, so the neck doesn't jump around when you start playing notes. Now we'll tune the bass. This is a very important step and should be done every time you pick up the bass because they go out of tune very easily. This will also allow you to be in tune with the video. We'll start with the first string of the bass, which is the G string, the one closest to the floor. Pick the G string with your right index finger to produce the G note. Trace the first string all the way to the tuning peg, which is usually the first peg on the bottom of the headstock. Tighten or loosen the tuning peg until you get a note that sounds exactly like this. The second string is a D string. Pick the D string and adjust the tuning peg until you get this note. Third string is an A string. The fourth string is an E string. A quick way of tuning is with an electronic tuner, and I highly recommend that you get one as soon as you can. This takes all the frustration out of tuning and allows you to get on with your playing. These cost from $35 to $60 and can be purchased at your local music store. Next, we're going to talk about right hand position. We're going to use the first 2 fingers of the right hand to pick the strings. Some bass players use a pick, but I recommend using fingers because you can get a wider variety of sounds. Using fingers, you can sound like you're using a pick, or get a rich, warm sound, simulate a synthesizer bass, or play with your thumb and get a slap sound. You can also change back and forth between these styles instantly if you're using your fingers. As we mentioned before, the forearm should rest against the top of the bass and brace it against your stomach. The thumb should rest either on the top end of the pickup or on the body of the bass or on the thumb rest if your bass has one. I'm going to use the top of the pickup on this bass. Arch your right wrist away from the body of the bass. Use the pads of the first 2 fingers of the right hand to pluck the strings. Don't use your fingertips or your fingernails. The nails should be trimmed short. This is a different technique from finger picking a guitar. Your fingers should move directly towards your thumb, not up and away from the bass. It should come to rest on the next string. This is called a rest stroke. Place your right index finger on the 3rd string and use that finger to pick the 3rd string. Your fingers should come to rest on the 4th string. Now do the same thing with your middle finger. Now alternate using the index and middle finger to pick the third string. This is what it looks like from above. Now move up to the second string and use the same technique. Your fingers should come to rest on the third string. Up to the first string, alternate your fingers, coming to rest on the second string. Move down to the fourth string. You notice there's no string for your fingers to rest against, so they should rest against your thumb. Don't pick the strings too hard. This is a common tendency for beginners, and it can cause buzzes or rattles. Use a smooth motion with the right hand. Simply turn up the amp if you need more volume. Also, don't get in the habit of practicing without an amp. Always plug in so you can hear and develop the proper feel with your right hand. The other thing to remember is to keep your fingernails trimmed. You don't want the sound of fingernails when you're playing the bass. Now we'll shift our attention to the left hand. The thumb position on the back of the bass neck is very important because it braces and balances the left hand. We're going to use what's called a classical thumb placement. Press your left index finger against your thumb. This is the position we'll use. You just put the bass neck in between the two fingers. Make sure your hand is pointing directly towards your face. Don't twist it in either direction. Also, don't get in the habit of resting your left elbow on your leg. This will make it difficult when you try to play standing up. This is the proper position. Place the base of the thumb on the center of the bass neck. Don't do this or this. Make sure you have the correct position. This is what the thumb position looks like from on top. Not here, here. This is the correct position. Now we're going to play some notes with the left hand. The thumb should be directly underneath the third fret of the bass. Place the pad of your left index finger directly behind the third fret of the fourth string. Make sure you don't get too far away from the frets or on top of the frets. Pick the fourth string with your index finger. Make sure you use the pad of your finger. This is the correct position. We don't use the fingertips of your left hand as on other stringed instruments for a couple of reasons. First, because of the large diameter of the bass strings, it's easier to fret the proper note and not slip off of it. And second, you'll eventually start deadening the adjacent strings so you don't get two or more notes sounding at once and causing overtones. This is easier to do using the pad of your fingers. Now let's review the 6 objectives we just covered. First, make sure your bass is in proper playing condition by taking it to your local music store. Second, hold the bass on your right leg, braced against your stomach with your right forearm, and the bass sitting upright. Third, tune the bass. Fourth, brace the right thumb on the top of the pickup and arch your wrist. Alternate the first 2 fingers with your right hand to pick the bass, making sure you use the rest stroke. Fifth, use the elevated thumb placement on the bass neck with your hand relaxed and pointing towards your face. And 6, note the strings correctly with the pad of your left hand fingers. We're going to use tablature to show what notes we're playing. If you also have the Bass Guitar Primer book, the music is in standard music notation as well. There are 5 lines in tablature with 4 spaces between the line. Each space represents a string on the bass. The bottom space is the 4th string, the next space is the 3rd string, the 2nd string, and the 1st string. The numbers represent the fret you're playing with your left hand. This would be the 4th string at the 3rd fret, 3rd string at the 3rd fret, 3rd string at the 5th fret. Now go to the 4th string and put the pad of your left index finger directly behind the 3rd fret. Pick the 4th string with your right index finger to produce the G note. Without changing your left thumb position, move the pad of your left index finger to the 3rd string at the 3rd fret. Pick the 3rd string with your left index finger for the C note. With the same left hand position, place the pad of your left ring finger directly behind the 5th fret of the 3rd string and pick with your right index finger to produce the D note. Now practice these 3 notes: G, C, D. G, C, D. 2 things to notice when you play these notes. Make sure you're using the correct left hand position and use the rest stroke with your right hand. Practice these notes until you're comfortable with them. Rewind the video to the beginning of this exercise and play along with it several times. Keep practicing until you can play these notes comfortably. Now we're going to put some timing with these notes. The stems on the notes mean that they're quarter notes and get 1 beat each. We'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, and play a note on every beat. We're also going to alternate the fingers on the right hand. Index, middle, index, middle. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now here's the whole exercise. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we'll use these notes in a very simple song, and I'll give you a 4-beat count-off. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you aren't getting a clear, distinct sound when you're playing these notes, it'll be for one of the following reasons. First is not pressing hard enough with the left hand. Make sure you press down firmly. Second, fingers too far from the frets or on top of the frets. Make sure you place your fingers directly behind the frets. And third, fingernails too long. Keep your fingernails on both hands trimmed short. I want to mention a couple of other things before we move on. First, make sure you don't develop any bad habits when you first get started. It's real easy to develop sloppy technique. So what you have to do is stop about every minute or so and check the 6 objectives we started with. Look at your right hand. Make sure your thumb is resting on the top of the pickup and your wrist is arched. You should be bracing the bass against your stomach with your right forearm and using the rest stroke with your right fingers. Next, look at your left hand. Check your thumb placement. Make sure you're using the pad of your fingers and that you're close to the frets. Pay real close attention to these details and your playing will continue to improve. A very common finger pattern on the bass is to alternate the bass notes used on each chord. We're going to use the 1st and 5th notes of each chord to play an alternating bass pattern. By the way, we'll refer to chords quite a bit. A chord is 3 or more notes played simultaneously, usually on a guitar or a keyboard. We're not going to play chords on the bass, but we'll play individual notes that correspond to the chords that other instruments are playing. And the large letters on the tab indicate chords. For a G chord, we're going to play a G and a D note. G, D, G, D, G, D, G, D. For C, we're going to play C and G. C, G, C, G. Just move your index finger back and forth. For the D chord, we're going to play D and A. A is a new note. We're going to put your ring finger on the 4th string at the 5th fret. And we'll just move your finger back and forth for the 2 notes, D and A. D, A, D, A, D, A, D. D, A. When you lift your left hand off of the strings, don't exaggerate your movement. You should only move your fingers about 1/4 of an inch at first so they're in position for the next note. This is called anticipation. We're going to use these 3 alternating bass patterns to play a song, and we'll start off slowly at first. 1, 2, 3, 4. Practice this several times until you can move your fingers around comfortably. Next, we're going to speed this up a little bit, and we're going to play along with a full band. And you'll hear a 4-beat count-off on the drumsticks. You should rewind the video and play along with this several times until you can get all the notes in. Also, I want to mention that we're going to play several different songs and styles of music on this video. All of these tunes are generic chord progressions that would fit many different songs. The cassette tape that comes with the Bass Guitar Primer book has several examples of popular songs. The next technique we'll use is playing eighth notes. Eighth notes get 1/2 beat each and are played twice as fast as quarter notes. We're going to use the same basic hand position as the previous song, but we're going to shift up to the 5th fret so that we'll be in the key of A. Alternate the fingers of the right hand. The D note will be the 3rd string at the 5th fret. Use your ring finger for the E note. Now we'll combine these 3 patterns to play another common chord progression called the rocking eighths. 1, 2, 3, 4. After you've practiced this several times, we'll speed it up a little bit and play along with the band. Once again, we're going to speed this up a little bit and play along with the boys in the band. Now we're going to turn our attention to scales. We've put off practicing scales on the bass to this point in the video because they're fairly hard for the beginner to play, but you should be ready for them by now. Scales are the basis of everything we play on the bass, and we're going to start with an A scale. Okay, we're going to start with the A note, 4th string at the 5th fret with the 2nd finger. Stretch your little finger to the 7th fret for the B. 3rd string, 1st finger at the 4th fret, 2nd finger at the 5th, little finger at the 7th, 2nd string, 1st finger at the 4th, ring finger at the 6th, little finger at the 7th. Now let's go all the way through it. Now we're going to start at the high note and come back down. Let's go all the way through it, going up and down. Practicing scales is a great way to warm up and get the fingers really going. From this point on, you should start out every practice session by playing scales. Scales are a lot like bar chords on a guitar in that you can move them anywhere on the neck. We'll use the same finger pattern, but move our starting point down to a G note to play a G scale. Starting on the 3rd fret with the 2nd finger. Coming back down. For keys that have their root notes on the 3rd string, we'll use the same finger pattern. We'll just start on the 3rd string. The D note is at the 5th fret on the 3rd string. Coming back down. C note is the 3rd string at the 3rd fret. Coming back down. As you can see, to play each of these 4 scales, we use the exact same finger patterns. We just started in a different spot. So for whatever note you start on, that's the scale you're playing. There's quite a bit more information on scales and music theory in the Bass Guitar Primer book, and I recommend that you study further with the book. Now we're going to take the scale patterns that we've been studying and use them in some songs. First, we're going to do a walking bass pattern up the neck. We're going to start on the A note on the 4th string, 2nd finger. Do it again. The D pattern, we're going to start on the D note. E pattern, we're going to shift up to the E note. Now we're going to use the walking patterns for A, D, and E in a song, and we'll start out very slowly at first. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just the first 4 notes of the pattern. The last measure, we'll play again. After you've practiced this several times and feel comfortable, we're going to play the walking up the neck at an up tempo. Another example of how we use the scale patterns is to connect finger patterns with bass runs. We're going to use the alternating bass pattern that we played on the first part of the video, and we'll connect the chords with bass runs. We'll move back down to the key of G, which is the 4th string at the 3rd fret, and link the patterns for the G and C chords. This is going to be based on the G scale. Okay, now we'll connect the G and the D chords. This is kind of tricky at first, so practice these 2 exercises several times before you try the song. 1, 2, 3, 4. Practice this several times until you feel comfortable with these notes. Then we'll play the up-tempo version of the bass runs in G. Now we're going to use the bass runs with the 2-beat pattern that we used earlier to do a walking 2-beat pattern. This is also going to be based on the G scale, and we're going to start on the high note or the octave. And we'll play it real slow, pay real close attention to the fingering. This one is a real workout for your fingers. Practice it several times, and then we'll try the up-tempo version of the walking 2-beat. By combining the 2-beat rhythm and the up-the-neck walks, we come up with a very common pattern that is used for slow rock tunes. We're going to move up and down the neck on this song so we don't have room to show the right hand. Here's the pattern on C. We're going to use the exact same pattern and start it on an E note, on an F note, and on a D note. There's also a triplet exercise in the song going from C to F, C to G, and back to C. Okay, we're going to play through it real slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we'll speed it up just a little bit and play along with the band. As I mentioned at the first of the video, we've concentrated on stages 1 and 2 in your playing. We've not tried to be an encyclopedia of bass knowledge, but we're trying to show you in great detail the proper techniques a beginner must learn and understand. There are obviously many styles and techniques that we haven't had the time to cover. Once you feel comfortable with all the material in this video, you can study further by working through the Bass Guitar Primer book. This contains many more techniques and songs that we didn't have the time to cover here. Also, all of the songs are performed with a full band on the cassette tape. We recommend that you review all the material on the video with an experienced teacher who can correct any mistakes you're making and provide direction for the future. I've enjoyed sharing all this information with you, and I hope this has started you on the road to becoming a bass player. At this point, I want to mention some tips for organizing your practices, because the most important part of learning to play the bass is to develop good practice habits. You're going to have patience, because playing the bass requires you to train your hands to do things they've never done before. Nowhere else in life do you have to do this or this, so be patient. To give yourself a fair chance at playing the bass, commit yourself to practicing every day for at least 2 months. Practice at least 30 minutes a day, and divide these sessions into 10 or 15-minute segments. Try to set up a routine so you practice at the same time every day and get in the habit of practicing. Think of this as similar to an exercise program where you go work out at the same time every day. Most important of all, relax. The reason you're doing this is to have fun. So if you get frustrated, take a break and come back to it later. A very common technique uses syncopated eighth notes to produce a rhythm called a rock shuffle. We'll stay in the key of A, and we'll use the A, D, E, and B notes. Here's the A note. G note. The E. The B, move your ring finger over to the 4th string. Practice these 4 exercises several times until you have the feel of playing the shuffle pattern. Then we'll move on to the next song, the rock shuffle in A. 1, 2, 3, 4. Half a measure each here. Once again, we're going to speed this up and play along with the boys in the band. We're going to continue with the shuffle pattern with the right hand, but we're going to change keys to the key of D. We're going to use the D, G, and A notes, but we're going to finger them differently. We're going to use the ring finger for the D, index finger for the G, ring finger for the A. Practice these 3 positions until you feel comfortable with them. D, G, A. D, G, A. Now we're going to use them in the rock shuffle in D. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we'll speed it up again and play the rock shuffle in D. Another common pattern for slow to medium tempo songs uses alternating bass notes like we used earlier, but with a slightly different rhythm. This is called a two-beat pattern. For the G, we're going to play a G and a D. For the C, we're going to use the exact same left-hand position, but start on the third string. Move up 2 frets for the D. And go over to the 4th string for the A minor 7. Now we're going to play the 2-beat in G. 1, 2, 3, 4. After you practice this technique several times, we'll speed it up and play along with the band. It's time to stop and take quick inventory of what we've done so far. You should be able to do the following things. First, you should know the basic positions for the G, C, D, and A notes, as well as E and B. You should be able to play 5 songs from memory. And third, you should be comfortable playing 4 different bass styles: alternating bass, eighth notes, rock shuffles, and 2-beat patterns. Review all the material up to this point and make sure you're comfortable playing along with the video. Another common bass pattern is the walking bass line, and it moves around on the fretboard quite a bit. We're going to start in the key of A and play walking bass patterns for the A, D, and E chords. We're going to start with the A chord. We're going to pick the 3rd string open and the ring finger on the 4th fret. Get that with the middle finger. On the 2nd string, 2nd fret, and the 4th fret. Play all 4 of these notes. All right, the D, we're going to do exactly the same thing, but we're going to start on the 2nd string. Open, 4th fret, 2nd fret, 4th fret. For the E, we're going to start on the 4th string. Practice the walking patterns for A, D, and E several times until you're comfortable with them. Then we'll put them into a song called the 12-bar blues in A. 1, 2, 3, 4. After you've practiced this several times and can play it smoothly, we're going to speed it up and play along with the band. Next, we'll go to the key of E to play another 12-bar blues pattern. We'll use the E and A patterns, and we're also going to add a pattern for B. We're going to use a real simple pattern for right now. We're going to play the B on the 3rd string at the 2nd fret, hit it 4 times. Here's another pattern where we're going to walk down from B to E. Do that one again. Practice both of these patterns several times, and we'll put them into the 12-bar blues in E. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once again, we're going to speed this up and play along with the boys in the band. It's very common to combine the walking patterns with the 8th note rhythm that we used earlier. This is called walking 8th notes. All right, we're just going to double up on the notes we're playing. We're going to hit 2 notes in each left-hand position. Okay, we're going to do that in all 3 chords, and we're just going to play through the walking 8ths in A. 1, 2, 3, 4. play that last measure again. After you've practiced this several times, we'll speed up and play the walking eighths in A. Next, we're going to combine the walking eighths with the rock shuffle to play a walking shuffle. Here's the E pattern. Notice that last note is different. And here's a pattern we're going to use to walk from E to A. Do it again. All right, now we're going to play through the walking shuffle in E. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. One, two, three, 4. One, two, three, 4. A half a measure each here. One, two, three, 4. One, two, three, 4. One, two, three, 4. One, two, three, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This measure is a little bit different. I'm going to play that last measure again. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4. Just the first 4 notes of the pattern. The last measure, we'll play again. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4.
A common technique among modern bass players is to dampen the string with the little finger of the right hand. This is done to get a sharper, more distinct sound. Place the little finger of the right hand on the 4th string and pick the string with the index finger. Press down firmly enough to get a dampened sound. Okay, we're going to plug that into some songs. Exercise 43, go back and pages 18, 20, and 21 and play these 3 songs. We're going to play the song on page 21, Rock Shuffle in D. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's kind of a tricky technique, so practice that several times. Then we'll play the up-tempo version of the rock shuffle in D, and we'll go through the chord progression once. Here's another finger pattern that's very common in rock music, and we're going to use 3 different variations on it. The first one on page 41 will be Addicted to Love, starting on an A note. That's the basic pattern using your ring finger, little finger, index finger. Slide down 2 frets. Back to the 5th. Practice this several times and then we'll play along to Addicted to Love. Another variation will be the pattern used on Billie Jean by Michael Jackson, starting on an F sharp, which will be the 2nd string 4th fret. The 1st string. Okay, now again, practice that several times and we'll play along to Billie Jean. One more variation on the same finger pattern would be Under My Thumb by the Rolling Stones, starting on an F, which would be the 3rd string at the 8th fret, little finger, Okay, on the E flat, now lay your first finger down across the first, fourth, and third strings. Do that one again. Slide down 2 frets. You'd repeat the first line. I'm going to go on to the second line. The A flat will be on the second string of the 6th fret. Got to stretch for that one. Got the F minor. Practice that one several times, and we'll play along to Under My Thumb by the Rolling Stones. On page 43, we're going to play a couple of other patterns that you might run across. The first one is La Bamba, and it's going to be based on a C scale. This one's a real finger stretcher. I'm going to play it real slowly at first. Practice that one several times, and we'll play along to the up-tempo version of La Bamba. Exercise 45 would be an example of a typical Motown bass line. Play it a little bit faster. On page 44, we're going to play some variations on the walking patterns we used earlier. Exercise 46. A little faster. Exercise 47. Exercise 48, going back to the open position, and we have a hammer on here. You don't pick the second note. Slam your ring finger down on the 4th fret. This covers all of the musical examples in the book. What you should do now is read through the appendix and then go back and review all the material in the book and make sure you understand everything and can play it all. As I mentioned earlier, there's a video available called The Introduction to an Electric Bass Guitar, a full 60-minute video. Uses a lot of different camera angles, split screen, on-screen tablature. It's available for $9.95. I hope you've enjoyed this course and that it gets you on the road to becoming a bass player.